Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of General Chat. Um, we're not gonna go into the usual pleasantries and other fun stuff because we got to get right into this one. And this one simply is sick and tired. I am sick and tired of just about everything that goes on in the world today. Pretty much everything. And I'm gonna throw in some truths that are out there. Shout out to our sisters podcast and Uncomfortable Truth for your insight and input. But it's a wash. It's a wrap. Let's look at the first thing that I'm sick and tired of. You have red pill content creators, and you know who you are because not all of you do it, but enough of you do it to make it an issue. And too many of you guys are simply saying what you must do in order to get women to comply with you. Here's uncomfortable truth number one. It ain't going back. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you think. I don't care about any of it. It's not going back. We're not going backwards. There's a reason why it's called progress. To progress is to move forward. Sometimes kicking and screaming, but it happens. And then you wonder, how did I ever do without this? Women, for good or for bad, no matter how you look at it, but women have fought and have attained the level of equality that puts them on level pecking with us men. It ain't going back because they're not going to let it go back. Short of a cataclysmic shift in society's perception of things, it ain't going back. And even then, I doubt it goes back. Simply because there are too many vested interests in keeping things the way they are. And that is another uncomfortable truth. Society is currently against you. Why? Because these days it is more economically feasible to placate to women. They buy all this stuff, whether they have to put it on credit or cash out or whatever. They buy 80% of all financial decisions are made by women. Do you think that businesses are going to give that cash cow up? Do you honestly think that they're going to look at that lucrative windfall and go, nah, we don't want it. Let's roll back to things to where they were. No, they're not. They are incentivized to keep things the way they are. And as I said before, short of a cataclysmic shift in perception, it's going to stay this way. So no, it's not going back. It's never going back. And if you think you can make it go back, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn, real cheap. And I'll throw in some swampland in the Everglades as a bonus. It's not going back. And I would like to see people who want to go back explain why. I am a moderate. There are things I like that are progressive. There are things that I like that are conservative. And that's just the way things are. And most people fit into that category. Sure, you got some French people that are extreme right and extreme left. You have another group of people that are right leaning and left leaning. But everyone else is pretty much in the middle. And I've seen things and I note things that make me want to stay in the middle. I've heard people say that the time is coming where you're going to have to pick a side. It's not here yet, is it? No, it's not. Will it ever get here? Highly doubtful. Highly doubtful. Because that tipping point that's going to polarize the people into one camp or the other hasn't materialized yet. Oh, we've come close. We've come very close. But we haven't crossed it yet. And I doubt we ever will, especially after things like the Sandy Hook massacre, in which children were killed. Sandy Hook, children were killed. All the way up to Uvalde, and so many in between where people were killed. Each time we said enough's enough. And each time the Republicans that you've elected, have played the long game. Because it is a known fact that we Americans collectively have short attention spans. Gnats have bigger attention spans than we do. They know that if they drag their feet just long enough, something else will happen and our attention will be focused elsewhere. So, thoughts and prayers. It's too early to talk about gun control. Allow people to grieve. And then people tend to calm down. And then something else happens, and immediately, oh, what? It's like a magpie with a shiny object. Or dog goes, squirrel. And our attention is focused elsewhere. And they go, phew, that was close. And now it's gotten to the point where they're not even trying to make it look anything other than what it is. Back in the day, at least they played the game. These days, why do it? Because each time they try something, there's no pushback and it emboldens them to a point where the unnatural becomes the norm. And that's where we are today. I was watching Melanie King today. Shout out to you, Melanie. And I hope that you continue to do what you're doing because we need more people like you in the space. But 30, 40 years ago, if a woman went outside in short shorts or a microskirt or even a mini skirt, plunging V-lines, see-through tops, all those stuff like that, they would have been labeled a whore. And not just by guys. It's society would ostracize them. But each time you have feminism tell people, you can't do that. She's empowered to do what she wants. She wants to dress like that, let her. And society said, yeah, okay. No pushback. So they took that step forward. They went, ooh, this was good. Let's try this. That's not right. Women can make as much as men. Women can do the same things men can do. Oh, well, maybe they could. Again, no pushback. And they took another step forward. They went, ooh, this is even better than I thought. Let's push the limits. And so you've gotten to a place where you got all kinds of things that were ostracized years ago are now commonplace and accepted today. And let's make one thing totally and abundantly crystal clear. Okay? I have nothing against women. I'm married to one. I have nothing against people who can think for themselves, can act for themselves, and are comfortable within their own skin. No issue. I have no issues with the alphabet community for the same reasons. And mainly because I'm not them. I could never understand their struggle because I'm not gay. I can never understand the struggle. I'm not a woman. I can never understand the struggle. I'm not a white male. So what they say, all right, but I'm gonna watch it. Trust but verify. That's something that Ronald Reagan said. Now, I'm not a big fan of him. I'm not a fan of his at all. But there are things that he has said that I tend to subscribe to. And that's one of them. Trust but verify. Okay, all right. Do me a favor, look that up. Trust but verify. There are so many things that have polarized the general public. And yet we're not at the tipping point. One thing that I was sure going to set people up was number 45. Now, I remember shouting from the rooftops from the day I saw him come down that golden elevator and cast his aspersions as the next president of the United States. He's full of crap. He'll never get there. I remember telling my wife, no, he's a liar. He'll never get there. And one of the first lies he said, Mexicans are rapists and murderers. Are some? Yep. Are all? No. Are most? No. It is a small but very vocal minority. And that's the people that make stuff happen. Small but vocal minority. Masquerading as the whole. And there's no pushback from the regular population. Where were all the other Mexicans saying, no, that's not us? We're not rapists and murderers. And they didn't say anything because understandably, they figured you knew that. There's nothing new under the sun, and there certainly is nothing new about that. We're not like that. That's not us. So that can't be us. Are some like that? Yes. Are we like that? No. But there's an underbelly, a subset of people, a vocal minority that think, oh, yeah, uh-huh, they are like that. I like this guy. What else do you have to say? And that's how it starts. Got to the point where after 4 years of stupidity, for lack of a better term, and that's after the man lost the popular vote, but won the electoral college, which is something else we could do without. But that's a story for another podcast. After all that, it got to the point where people were thinking anything but Trump will do. So when the Democrats rolled out Joe Biden, he can't be any worse than the guy we got in here now. Let's give him a chance. And some people, oh, again, a vocal minority, I sit there and go, see, we gave him a chance and it didn't work out. Well, let's look at that. Did it work out? Subjective, isn't it? Depends upon how you look at it. Did he do anything that he pledged to do if elected? He's done a few things, and he hasn't done others. For example, the um, the migrant crisis at the border. He left that in place. Why? Probably because he agreed with it. Who knows? I'm not Joe Biden. I can't tell you how the man thinks. Maybe he agreed with it. Maybe there were other reasons why he felt right now is not a good time to move it. But regardless of the motives, it wasn't moved. And people began to get upset. The economy has slowed down. Again, depends upon how you look at it. On his side, record unemployment lows. Against him, a lot of people simply dropped out of the jobs market. I'm not looking anymore. I'll do it myself. Hence the rise of the gig economy. I work when I want, how I want, and depending upon the actual sector that I'm working in, I get paid the same day. I believe Lyft is one of those things where I can work 8 hours and at the end of the day, pay myself. Can you do that with any other job? Not the one that readily comes to mind. Certainly not in corporate America. But even then, I've seen places where work today, pay today. But again, that's few and far in between. It's statistically insignificant. Does it happen? Yeah, it does happen. But it doesn't happen enough to make society actually notice it. Which means it doesn't happen on any large scale. The exception does not make the rule. sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of the modern dating place. And this being said, I don't date, and I'm still sick of it. Again, I've said this before. I will say it again. If, God forbid, if anything happened to my wife tonight, I'm done. I am done. And I don't even see much of me wanting to smash, because to do that, you got to jump through hoops. And who wants to jump through hoops? I'm not a dog. I'm not an animal. You can keep your laundry list of things you're looking for in a man, because you're not getting it here. No, I'm not giving it anything like that to you, because you're not worth it. And again, and I hate saying this, I hate saying this, but that doesn't count for everyone. Are there people out there that's worth it? Absolutely. But I'm not looking, because shout out to Pearl and just Pearly Things, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Nope, it just isn't. So why bother? Again, a phrase that my friends and I back in the day used to always say to each other: never diss a definite for a maybe. I'll say that again. Never diss a definite for a maybe. If you got something and you know you have it, why are you looking elsewhere? Concentrate on what you have. And this goes, and I understand why men do what they do. I understand the hardwiring, the biological impulses. I also understand that when you go into a union with someone, you make a vow in front of God, if you so believe, or whatever deity you believe in or pray to, that you're going to stick together for the long haul, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And that means something. It's not lip service. There are days I can't stand my wife. There are days she can't stand me. There are ups and there are downs. There are good days and bad days. I just need to make sure that I have more good days than bad days. And I can do that. That's a promise I made to myself when we got married. And I've kept it for the most part. Actually, you can say I kept it, because here we are almost 30 years later and we're still together. But you got hypergamy, and you got uh, all kinds of things that women love to employ. You got the fact that you go into a contract that the government approves of, which means they get a cut, and then they incentivize the woman to walk out, take half your stuff, take your kids, demonize you, ostracize you, bring men, some men, to the point of self-deletion. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It can't be that bad, but to them it is because they do it. And I rack my brain constantly asking myself, why? Is it really that bad? And to some, yes, it is. And to those who think that it is, I can't say nothing. I'm not them. There's nothing I can say or do that makes much of a difference. Which brings me to another thing I can't stand. I can't stand the fact that although I'm a firm believer in one man makes a difference, too many people out there make me reconsider that position. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I believe in that wholeheartedly. If you want to make the world a better place, just look at yourself and make the change. I believe that. I believe all that stuff. Then I turn around and look around and nothing seems to happen. And that is insidious. Because I can tell you what happened. I'm going to give you an example of why that happens. Some time ago, I was working at a call center, and morale was in the toilet. Every day, people were grumbling, moaning, complaining. I can't stand it working here. They work us to the bone. They treat us like dogs. They treat us like animals. I can't stand it here. And I was talking to it about with some people. And I said, we should, as one, get up and say, no more. And everyone should stage a sick day. But then I said, but it'll never happen because you won't do it. They can silence 1, 2, 3, even 4 people. They can silence them. They can't silence 3,000 people. Scales make it impossible. I can train 4 people. I can train 40 people. I can train 100 people at a stretch, but I can't train an entire call center from scratch. Because while you're going through the 2 weeks of training, you're going to have a backlog of people calling with complaints. And that's going to impact their bottom line. That's going to turn a surplus into a deficit. And no business ever wants that. So they'll give you what you want. But they know in their heart of hearts, you're not going to ask for it because you're too afraid of what will happen. And you don't have to be, but you are. So even though one man can make a difference, if one man tells somebody who's not going to action what he's talking about, it's dead in the water. It's a non-starter. And it drives me insane. Gun control. Overwhelming majority of Americans want it. But again, a vocal minority won't have it. So it doesn't happen. Assault rifles should be banned. There is no practical reason for anyone to own a weapon of death or a weapon of mass destruction. You don't need a weapon that discharges 30 to 45 rounds a second when it only takes one to put somebody down. But it's not going anywhere. Why? It is infuriating, to say the least. Frustration, anger, resignation. Because no matter what I think, no matter how much I make wish for it, it's not going to happen. Because too many people are too afraid to change. And they have a million reasons for it. And I'm sure some of them are very valid. But regardless of what they might think or what their reasons are, it's not going to happen. So, yeah, I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Miss me with that. Thank you for allowing me to vent. Because now I feel a little bit better. And I will continue to fight the good fight for you guys. I will continue to address topics and issues as they come up. And I will give you something else to think about. Now, once again, these views and opinions are mine. You don't have to agree with them. Hell, you don't have to like them. But you need to at least acknowledge them, if not understand them. And one final thing I'm going to touch on before I go is just that. Why won't people listen to what other people think? Why won't they give ideas a proper vetting? Consequences. If you believe something and someone shows you that it's not true, and you honestly look at it and say, you know what? It's got a point. Maybe that's not true. Or maybe that is true. The very next thing they think of is, well, if that's not true, what about this? And if that's not true, what about that? And before you know it, you have a crisis of faith because everything that you've held dear up to that point is now in jeopardy. Everything. And people can't have that because that is an agent of change. And people don't like to change. Let's keep it 100. People don't like change. But then again, if we don't change, we don't live the way we live now. We might as well be back in the Stone Age. But we don't because we've changed and we've adapted to the changes. Sometimes kicking and screaming, but we've changed. I wonder if today's youth could survive 20 years ago. when we were just getting into the internet, or 30 years ago when there was no internet. Could they survive? I doubt it. With their faces all in the screen. They don't go outside and play, partly because of society, the way things go. But for the most part, why go outside when everything I've got is right here? Everything I need is right here in my front of my face. I don't need to go outside. So when they're little, yeah, they start outside, they're playing. As they get older, you notice it gets less and less. So they become teenagers and they're constantly in the house. Why? Because it might happen, but then again, it might not. And if it doesn't happen, then what? All that fear mongering, and the child is fine. But it might happen. But it might not. It could happen. Yeah, but it probably won't. And in the event that it does happen, my bad. And that's all I could do. That's on me. Sorry. If you too are sick and tired, like I am, leave it in the comments. If you got ideas to try and make the world a better place, again, put it in the comments. I've said this before, I'll say it again. We can't grow if we don't know. Do you have an idea for a show? Again, put it in the comments. Together, we can make this a better place. But I need you to get active. I need you to get involved. Till the next people, later.